Welcome to Attenuation, a weekly podcast where two friends come together to drink beer, discuss beer styles and trends, and just generally ruminate on the meaning of life, aka beer. If you enjoy your time with us, we invite you to become a weekly listener and subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, here is this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to episode 35 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Stephen.
Hello.
Good day, sir. How are you doing?
Fantastic. Ready to drink some beer.
That's the best part right now. All right, so today we are doing a deep dive into Sam Adams.
Yeah, or Boston Beer Company.
Or Boston Beer Company, which we'll get into it, but the dive wasn't as deep as I anticipated.
No, well, disappointing.
But we'll get into that. We got to open the show right by
it's going to be fun.
Beer. Yeah, a lot of facts. We're going
to teach you so many things today.
So I said I was going to go find one, and I did. I got Sierra Nevada's, thanks to your tip that it was being brewed, I got Celebration Fresh Hop IPA. So I don't know the details about like how fresh the hops are in here, but I'm excited because I don't remember ever trying a fresh hop IPA.
If I remember right from their Instagram post, they got the hops within like 3 days.
Okay.
So it's not like a true 24-hour hop field to fermenter, true fresh hop IPA, but you could probably consider it a wet hop IPA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sort of fresh.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't be bad for the marketing.
Yeah.
Kind of fresh IPA.
I don't think anybody's enforcing the 24-hour rule, so I think they're going to label it however they think it's going to sell better, not.
That makes sense. They don't have to call it sort of
Ooh,
fresh.
It's a dark color. It's
look at that. I did not.
Amber fresh hop.
Yeah, why is it so dark?
Yeah, it's just a malty IPA.
This is Sierra Nevada. This is going to be a West Coast IPA for sure.
Yeah.
I guess I'm too accustomed to New England IPAs. But yeah, it's a very dark. It's actually gorgeous. And it has, it's like a very dark reddish amber.
Because if you pour out a Sierra Nevada pale ale,
yeah,
it looks kind of like that.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty malty looking.
I gotta drink another one of those. Like, I like that beer. I just haven't had one for a long time. And then we have a very thick, lacy head that's got huge bubbles, and it's brown. And the smells, okay. Yeah, it's very malty and very vegetal. And it almost smells like candied oranges. And then like other tropical flavors you'd usually get in a hop. So like citrus, pine, mango. But yeah, there's like a candied note in here. That's really interesting. Okay. So those are my nose notes. I'm going to enjoy this and pass it over to Steven to introduce his beer.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I have a beer. It's called Horseplay. It's a collaboration between Holdout Brewing and Blue Owl Brewing. This was a beer that was specifically brewed for the Texas Craft Beer Festival. And anyone who had a VIP ticket got a 4-pack of this on their way out of the festival. I unfortunately I was not able to attend the festival, but a coworker of mine bought the tickets off me and went to the festival. But she had 2 tickets, so she got 2 4-packs of this. So she gave me one of the 4-packs.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't have high hopes for this beer. It's kind of a weird style. So it's a cold IPA, which is kind of a newer trend where you cold ferment an IPA. I think I don't know if you use a true lager yeast or just a yeast that tolerates a colder temperature, but with the goal of, not having some of those esters, for a really, really clean, crisp base for your hoppy beer. So I don't know.
And then really good.
Yeah, and then there's a twist. Okay. So the one half of the collaboration, Blue Owl Brewing, they are almost completely, I think they have like a Pilsner or something, but other than that, everything is sour. Their stout is sour, everything is sour. or basically an all sour brewer. So the description on the can does say crispy IPA with a hint of tartness, and it was brewed at Blue Owl. So
I'm predicting you're gonna like this.
I don't know. Like I said, I told Jason in the pre-roll, well, they gave this out free at the end of the beer festival. So
Yeah, maybe it didn't go how they planned, and they were like, "What are we gonna do with all this beer?"
Or, I mean, they just brewed an experiment, and it wasn't like they were going to toss it out at the end.
I don't know. I still have high hopes for it, but...
Okay, so a very, very clear, very, very pale yellow color. No head whatsoever. Just a real fast carbonation, and it was gone.
Yeah, it looks like apple juice.
Yeah.
Okay, my hopes are going down.
It has a very wheat sour smell to it, like kind of a Goza Berliner Weiss smell to it. It's just kind of like a lemony wheat malt smell. Hops are not really a little bit of hop flavor, maybe just some like same as you, kind of citrus pine notes, just very basic hop aromas coming off of this. Okay, this was going to be fun to drink.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
This is kind of what I was expecting. It's good. You were right. It's super malty and sweet on the entrance. And then it has that balance because it's sweet, but it definitely ends bitter. Like I almost get a black tea note, which is really interesting, and grapefruit, pine, and then like a bitter green apple finish. And it's really oily, like resinous. It kind of like coats the whole mouth. So I don't know if that's like the fresh hop aspect, but it's not like overly bitter. But it's pretty potent, like the vegetal pine hop flavors. They're pronounced. So I think it was smart to make it. I think they had to make it super malty on the front end to then like kind of balance that out. So it's interesting, and it's 6.8%. I would say it's good. It's a slow sipper. I don't think I would like drink this fast. If that makes sense. But no, yeah. I mean that's good. That's not a bad thing. So I'll give it a thumbs up, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like it. How was yours? Was I right?
You were wrong.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I kind of had a feeling that it was not going to be that good. Like I said, it was just a kind of experiment that they were giving away for free. It's weird because it feels like a 6-month-old IPA. Like, it's just very stale. The hop flavors are very stale. So it's really sort of crisp. Like I think I see what they're going for in the cold IPA kind of thing, but it's also kind of flavorless. Like it's just there's no backbone to it at all. So I don't know. I understand maybe trying to like delete the yeast flavors a little bit, But if you're gonna showcase something else, but they didn't showcase anything else, So it's like there's nothing. It's really, really flavorless. The hop bitterness is there, it's present, but it just flops. It's not aromatic at all. You get this like kind of lemony, and it said it was a little tart. I'm not really picking that up, except for a little bit of like a lemon tartness, but it really goes more into like a lemon rind kind of bitterness. Okay. And it's just like if you fruited this, maybe, if there was like a fruit adjunct to this, and like just a tad bit more sourness to it or tartness to it, I could see that playing well. Like you could balance some of that, or you could like pull some of that hop flavor out with like a fruit adjunct, like a mango maybe might help. I don't know. It falls so flat.
Well, that's a bummer.
Yeah, they tried something new.
Yeah, you got to experiment. To invent new things.
Not gonna probably see this on their tap wall. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean it's drinkable, but it's just not very good.
All right, fair enough. I guess that's what you get for your free beer.
It was free, kind of free with admission.
That's true. That's not really free.
Well, it was free for me actually.
Oh well, there you go. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, Steve.
Yeah.
With your horseplay beer.
My coworker listens to the show, and I just want to apologize to her because she did bring me this 4-pack. I don't know what I'm going to do with the other 3. But I appreciate you bringing me the beer.
You have good coworkers.
Yeah, very good.
I'm jealous of them week to week. All right, are you ready for some beer news?
Yes.
I'm going to make you happy with this. So this article is slightly dated, but we were doing research for our main topic. Actually, it's not that old. This is from October 25th from Food and Wine. Millions of cases of truly hard seltzer will be destroyed as hard seltzer boom fades.
Nice.
It's going away, Stephen. All that wasted production, even toppling Goliath making hard seltzer, they can get back to making good things to drink. So it doesn't sound like it's not going to disappear, but the industry or the popularity of hard seltzer has been booming. And I think now it's, it reaches apex and now maybe it's on the way back down. So they just kind of overproduced.
Yeah.
In anticipation of like continual growth, and that growth was not there. So they're gonna have to destroy a bunch of it just because they said they don't want it to sit around past its shelf life, because that'd be bad for the it's bad if you don't want to still sell stale anything. It's really bad for the brand.
I mean, maybe they should have timed their production a little bit better. Like, I think it was definitely peaking over the summer, and maybe they should have scaled back before we got into colder months.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Or something.
I don't know.
Well, the other thing too is that the market just all of a sudden got flooded with so many. I mean, Topo Chico jumped into the hard seltzer game, so you had some major ones, and then you also had every single brewery almost making one too.
So all your got fierce.
Yeah, really quickly.
That's a good point too. Yeah, because even when you have like world-class craft brewers making hard seltzer, that means it's gotten too popular, or the trend is.
Yeah, and those took over the grocery store too.
Did they?
So if you've got like multiple choices, like, are you gonna pick Truly's, or are you gonna maybe pick something you think might taste better?
Yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of cool, because now maybe at least the craft brewers will stop making it.
Yeah, do Truly a favor, leave them alone, let them do their thing.
Let them. It's like we don't need choices when it comes to hard seltzer.
Now, Truly is owned by Boston Beer Company, right?
Yes, and that's why I discovered this article, because I was researching Boston Beer Company.
So we'll talk a little bit about that later, about all the other companies they own, but Truly not doing so well for them.
Yep.
Well, I will jump onto that beer news a little bit.
Okay.
Speaking of seltzer water, not hard seltzer, but a local brewery called Whitestone, they have this hop water that they sell in the store, and it's a non-alcoholic, dry hopped carbonated water. So they market it as like a LaCroix or something that has like a little bit of fruit essence to it. This one just has hop essence. So I'm gonna try it.
Now, I've seen stuff
on
like
the
this
podcast.
I'm glad you're trying it, because I'm curious about it, but I don't want to buy it.
So I will say I had a friend that had gotten like a sample of one. It was a different brand, but it was mango. So I don't know whether they also added mango and hops. And I didn't try, but I smelled it, and it smelled really good. This one is just hops. Like, it doesn't have any other adjunct to it.
Okay.
I'm going to drink it out of the can, too, because that's how it's probably meant to be consumed.
I will...
There's not a lot of aroma coming out of it.
I'll frown. Because you got to pour it into a glass. You can't smell out of that tiny aperture.
I'm, like, spilling it on myself. Okay.
Okay, taste it. I want to know. We need a full analysis. You look unhappy.
Ooh. That is gnarly.
Really?
It's just like grass.
Huh. It doesn't. You're not getting like any of the hop. Like, you're not getting grapefruit, pine.
It's like just super vegetal, like very vegetal.
Maybe this was made by someone who's not a beer nerd.
It's a really good brewery.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. I can't.
One sip was all that did ya? Because, when I looked at those, I did think, like, you know how you kind of crave an IPA sometimes?
Ah, yeah.
If they could capture that part of that you're craving, like the hop flavors, I would probably drink one of those. But your reaction's making me think I'll never will drink one of these.
Like I said, I think if you did that with also a fruit adjunct, it might be better. It's like my other beer. Add a little bit of fruit. It might help. It doesn't always help, but it might in both these cases.
When in doubt.
God, that is bad. I thought they
Wow.
would do a better job with that.
Yeah, I would think if they're like a good brewery, they could make it.
They sell that like in the stores.
I wonder
Somebody
who's
thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah, someone's drinking it.
It's just very, very vegetal. Okay. I got a lot of bad flavors going
You're
on
you're
in my
0 for,
mouth
0
right
for 2 today. You need to we need to pause and you need to go get something you really like.
That's all right. I'm going to see if this cold IPA gets better as it warms.
All right. So, our main topic is Boston Beer Company, aka Samuel Adams. Now, I was excited when we did this because these deep dives are always interesting because within like the first 30 seconds, multiple preconceived notions get eradicated by the Wikipedia entry or like whatever, the article you find. For some reason, this brewery is always credited with like, it's the front runner of the craft beer revolution in America. And for some reason, I thought it was from like the 1800s. I thought it was super old, kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It has this mystique about it, and there's like pictures. Is it just super good marketing, Steven? Did I fall for it?
Well, I think so. I think just the fact that they use the name Sam Adams, like he's one of the founding fathers, gives you this sense of like, oh, it's a really old brewery. But when was it founded? 1984?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I thought they were like youngling. I thought they were around like 100 plus years.
Yeah, they ain't got nothing on Yingling.
No,
Yingling, by the way. It's pronounced
Sorry. Yingling. We should have put that in our postscript. Oh, man. We got to re-record that whole episode.
I know, right? Someone out there listening to it, like, cringing every time we say it.
We probably said it like 100 times, too.
But yeah, I mean, Yingling from 1829 or something like that, and 1984, it's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, so already my heart was kind of broken.
I mean, granted, we've done, Anchor was kind of the same way. They were like, from a long time ago, they kind of had a sort of a revitalization that started in like the 80s with Sierra Nevada as well.
Yeah, but like based on just this fact, I think Anchor should be credited with like, they're the founder of craft beer almost in America.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you look at the East Coast, there's just two coasts.
Yeah.
Coast, honestly, because if you look at the East Coast, there was also Brooklyn Brewing that produced their Brooklyn lager, which is very similar to the Vienna lager style, like the Sam Adams Boston lager. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of the same way. Like they were, I think, in the 80s promoting a new beer that it was similar to some other styles that people were used to, but it was like pushing their palate just a little bit and starting this like sort of craft beer revolution. I don't know. You just have you have Brooklyn, Sam Adams, and Yingling on the one side making amber lagers, and then I guess you kind of have the same sort of beer being made on the West Coast, and it just, I don't know. You just have two different populations.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense because they weren't shipping this. They barely ship. A lot of these breweries barely ship across the nation today.
Now,
so they certainly weren't doing it in the 80s.
Right.
So, okay, that makes sense. And it's kind of true to what, like in almost every deep dive we do, a lot of times beer just comes down to a region. And the U.S. is a large country. I mean, it takes a long time to go from one end to the other, especially compared to some of those European countries. So that makes sense. Okay. So fine, yeah. They can be the East Coast founders.
But I do think it was jarring only because we had this idea that they had been around much longer. So
yeah. So excellent marketing because I thought they were ancient. I'm older than Boston Beer Company.
Yeah, me too. So it's not that old.
And I can't be old.
It's not old at all. So, but the founder, Jim Cook, I think we said, we'll mispronounce a few things. Jim Cook, he was from a long line of brewmasters. I mean, I think he was like 5th generation brewmaster. So he had a long history of brewing in his family. So I guess there's that.
Yeah, I think there is the history. I just, for some reason, I thought the brewery was really old.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 1984 is when it gets established. And you're right. They apparently were following Jim's great great grandfather's recipe.
Yes, and it was a Vienna lager, which is kind of a amber style lager, very much in thread of Yingling and Brooklyn Brewery's lager. The style was developed in like the 1830s by a guy named Anton Dreher, where he used pale malts. Which it's funny because they're amber, but they're paler than a lot of the English malts that were being used at the time. And then he mixed those with a lager yeast and cold fermented it. It got really famous because he had a restaurant in Paris where he served his beer, and just a lot of German brewers that immigrated to the United States used that style, that sort of recipe, to start brewing in the United States. So yeah, just want to give you a little background on the type of beer. That Sam Adams Boston Lager was the first beer they brewed, and it was based on a recipe from his great-great-grandfather that followed this amber lager style.
Yeah, it's really cool, and obviously very popular, and still popular to this day. So
yeah, very much. It seems like a kind of an East Coast style. That's what they like to drink, is the more malty lagers over there.
Well, it's cold in Boston.
The other interesting thing is they use this mashing process called decoction. It's like this multi-step mashing process. So instead of just putting the water and the grain together and heating those up, you like take parts of the grain out, boil them and then bring them back in. You do that multiple times, where you take parts of the grain out, raise it to a high temperature, and then put it back. And what you get is these malt compounds that have a very, very, very rich malty flavor. So that's where you get that nice rich flavor in these beers, is from the mashing process that they use. So it's an old process. It's a process that was like born out of necessity of when they didn't have full temperature control. And so it's not really a style of brewing that has to be done like it used to be, but they use it to get those certain flavors. So.
That's interesting. And it's kind of cool that they still do it that way. I do like that.
Yeah, it is cool. Jim Koch, to his credit, he had made a lot of money doing some other stuff, and he decided to start this beer company, and he was brewing this old recipe in his kitchen. So following his dream, as Jason and I say.
Follow your dreams, kids.
Quit your day job and follow your dream. Don't actually do that. It's not good life.
Yeah, no. This podcast is not supporting us in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, this is a dream that we're following.
And we have day jobs.
That cost us more money than it.
It's cool. We're like Amazon. We got to sink money in. And we're going to lose money for like 10 years.
Sure. We're very much. Public. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where the analogy to Amazon ends. Lose money.
Hemorrhaging money. Amazon did it. But yeah, no, very smart businessman, I would say, is Jim.
Yeah, and I think we kind of made that distinction between them and like Sierra Nevada, is you kind of had this guy who was business minded, who got into brewing beer, because he, like I said, he came from a family of brewers.
Yes.
So it was like in his blood, but
yes.
He was a businessman first.
But he got kind of the business, and he was working in consulting, so he knew how to correctly like monetize a beer business, whereas some of the other, Sierra Nevada, a lot of these other companies were incredibly successful, but I don't know if they didn't have like a business background. I actually don't know, to be honest, but like,
Vinny from Russian River, it was just like he just wanted to do it,
right?
And then he was just brewing beer, and then he just like made really, really good beer, and it sort of took off because his product was so good.
Right, and then you got to learn the business. That's part of it, right?
Yeah. So you, and I think he would admit to making some mistakes. He had to bring on investors to build his business, and then he wanted to buy them out as quickly as possible. He hated the fact, he just hated having that. Whereas I don't think Jim Koch cared.
Right.
It was just build the business and build it as fast as possible. So 2 different models.
Yep, exactly. And what's interesting is he also took the company public, which is an interesting option. A lot of times you see the brewers stay private, and then they do get bought for like the ridiculous amounts of money. But Another thing you can do is just take your company public.
Yeah, and you can just become the big company.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have a bunch of shares, and now you're very wealthy as well. So, yeah, so kind of two different paths. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and then the co-founder, Rhonda Coleman, who had previously worked for Jim Koch as a secretary, and then they were the ones that started Boston Beer Company together. She also seemed very sort of business-minded, and I think she spearheaded a lot of the offshoots, the other products they were making. So they started making hard cider in 1995, which eventually became Angry Orchard cider, which you see a ton. I think it became Angry Orchard in 2012. They had Twisted Tea, which is a hard, lemonade tea, like hard, like Arnold Palmer.
By the way.
Yeah.
I had an Angry Orchard phase.
I had a long hard cider phase, and Angry Orchard was a huge part of that. Ace ciders and Angry Orchard ciders were my go-tos for sure.
The sins of our past, Stephen. And here we sit making fun of
wherever you are on your journey. Wherever you are on your journey, I had to go through that to make it to sour beers.
That's true. This one's
priming me.
Ways.
I had to go from very sweet to I had to dial back the sweetness.
And
now I drink sweet sour smoothie.
Yeah. You've gone full circle.
No, yeah, I don't know the difference.
You're like Frodo. You're back in the Shire.
Ooh, I do like sweet stuff.
There I'm back again. Stephen's tale. Oh, that's great. But then we did find out they also own Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're just in all the summer drinks, the hard summer drinks. They're all about it. But yeah, you could tell that they, that was a mission of theirs, is just heavily marketing. I think they even got into some litigation and stuff over there, like aggressive marketing early on from the macro breweries.
Really?
I mean, I don't know details of all of that litigation, but yeah, they were they were really trying to bust out on the scene and bring something new to the beer world. That was their goal. They just wanted to challenge the macro beers that were dominating the market. So
I have a fun controversy.
Yeah?
Theirs, yes. So they produced a fruit beer labeled Cranberry Lambic. Now, no, they did not call, and we've covered this in many podcasts, they should have called it a Cranberry Lambic style. If you add that word style, you are absolved.
Yeah, you get away with it.
You get away with it. They just called it Lambic. And Lambic describes a spontaneously fermented beer generally produced in Brussels. It's kind of like champagne.
Yeah, it's just kind of geographically lost.
Yeah, it's tied to the region. And Sam Adams, their Lambic was not spontaneously fermented. And obviously not produced in Brussels. And so some consumers and brewers, including Michael Jackson, who's a very famous beer critic, called it a misleading name.
Ouch.
And yes, that's
man, that was a hard hitting.
It's kind of hard hitting. I don't think there was any real consequences, and they just defended themselves, saying, "I wouldn't consider it mislabeling. Whenever I have served the Cranberry Lambic, I've always been really upfront about it. Is it a true Lambic made in the region of Belgium? No. Does it taste like one? Yes. So it's sort of our homage to the style without the pain and agony of it." Which is a really weird way of saying.
It's a weird way of saying that it's an homage to the style because you didn't do it. You didn't do any of the work.
Yeah, it's nothing like the style. And you weren't upfront about it at all. You called it a Lambic. And it's not a Lambic in any way.
It's not like, also, it's not like you're personally pouring all of them. Like anytime it gets poured, you're there to explain, by the way.
Exactly.
I know it says Cranberry Lambic on the can, but let me tell you why it's not actually a Lambic. You're like, who are you? Why are you in my house?
Is the man talking to you in the room with us right now, Steven?
It's this voice from
It's Grant Wood, by the way. He was the senior brewing manager. should have had like.
We can call it a lambic.
They should have had like when you get the 6-pack, it has a little battery in the cardboard and a little speaker, and you push a button, and it says like, I know it says lambic on the label, but this isn't really a lambic.
But just to be up front.
Just so you don't get confused.
Oh man.
So I thought that was really funny because we've talked about, this is the first case I've ever seen of like it documented somewhere, but we've kind of always said like we notice people are really careful to call it like an inspired by or a style and not actually go and name themselves after a historical geography locked brewing process.
Yeah. Well, I think like when we did the Kolsch episode, which is kind of the same way, like it should really come from that area, specific area in Germany. But we have Allstat Brewing here in Austin that's, or it's Fredericksburg, right outside of Austin, that is like they pride themselves as making traditional German beers. So when they're Kolsch, like they don't call it a Kolsch style brewer because they truly believe like they're making the beer in the true Kolsch way. So it's kind of interesting. Like, and again, there's no Kolsch police. Like nobody cares, but
right.
So it's really just like, you know, does a brewer feel like they can call it a Kolsch, or you know they do because they're so traditional in their brew methods, whereas others I think are at least self-aware, you know, enough to say, hey, you know, it's a Kolsch style. To like abide by the rule, the rule basically.
It's the honor system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just some funny.
Sam Adams no honor system.
No honor system when it comes to lambic. So, anyways, I thought that was a pretty fun little fact. Now, didn't we talk about moonshot? We didn't cover that yet.
No. So this is Rhonda Coleman at some point left Sam Adams, I think in 2001, to start her own brewery called New Century Brewing. They had beer they called Moonshot, and it was going to have caffeine in it. So like uppers with your downers kind of thing. Apparently they got into this long battle with the FDA over whether they could put caffeine in beer, and they ultimately lost and ended up closing that brewery because they couldn't make the product they wanted to make.
They got caught up in the Four Loko craze, huh?
I guess. I mean, it was a need in the market they thought needed filling or wasn't being filled enough. So
yeah, there was no caffeinated. I never heard of a caffeinated beer, but there was Four Loko. It was like,
which is like what, a bunch of different hard alcohols with caffeine or something.
Yeah, it was like this is from the dark ages of my drinking history that I'll never return to. You need a very young...
Those ones you barely remember.
Yeah, you need a young, vigorous body to survive. But do you know what, like, Mad Dog 2020 is?
Okay, I somewhat remember that. But
yeah.
I don't think I wasn't drinking it.
You're better to not know. But imagine that. It's like fortified alcohol, like a fruit fortified alcohol. It might even be like fortified wine. Imagine that carbonated with like the same caffeine. I don't actually know how much caffeine was in it. The rumor was like, you know, it's like drinking like a Rockstar.
Yeah.
But it had alcohol in it basically. And then I think maybe someone died or something. And then there was we should research this. I'll fix it in the postscript if it's not.
You're just making this up now.
I'm making up rumors, but but I know what happened is they either fully took out the caffeine or significantly reduced like the amount of caffeine content, because I think, and I don't know if that came down from the FDA, but they still market it. It looks exactly the same. At least that's from what I understand. But yeah, so maybe they got caught in that whirlwind of, because I don't know. I think it's sort of frowned upon to mix caffeine and alcohol in a product.
Apparently FDA doesn't like it. So.
It does. I mean, you can go to a bar and you can still order a Red Bull vodka, right?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't come in can together. Yeah. But yeah, so that brewery closed, but she owns a distillery in Boston now that specializes in whiskey, but multiple different hard spirits.
Ooh, I heard whiskey. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, are they putting caffeine in the whiskey?
I don't think so. I think she left that world behind. Gave up on that dream.
It's kind of ironic. It's called Moonshot.
She took her shot.
It was. I think it's a good idea, actually, but
Didn't quite reach the moon.
we're being so mean. I'm sorry. If you ever listen to this podcast,
Yeah.
she
If
won't.
Jim Cook is listening to this podcast and Rhonda Coleman, we apologize.
I personally,
We acknowledge your brilliance. We acknowledge your goal of bringing craft beer to the world.
yes,
Thank you.
we do. Thank you. Cheers
Yeah.
to that.
Because, they do make some really good beers now, like some IPAs. If you're not an amber lager fan, they have a hazy IPA. I think they even have a non-alcoholic hazy IPA called Just the Haze.
Well, and they make Utopias, which we are going to try.
Yes. The 28% beer.
That could be my favorite beer
quote,
of all time, and I just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah,
Then we're gonna have to revisit this episode and proclaim the brilliance and utter domination of Boston Brew Company.
Yeah. What's interesting about Utopias is actually really simple beer.
Okay.
It's just hopped with German noble hops. I think 4 different kinds of German noble hops. So nothing like super flavorful or aromatic. Yeah, it's just like, it's not fancy. It's just they take this base beer and age it in all these different barrels, one after another, after another, after another. And that's where it gets all the flavor. So it's kind of interesting idea. I feel like Dogfish Head took it. Okay, so Sam Adams acquired, I guess we should go over that. They acquired Dogfish Head, which is in Delaware, for $300 million in what year was that?
I think 2019.
2019. Yeah, 2019. So now I think Utopia comes out under the Dogfish Head name.
Okay, that would actually make sense because they make all sorts of weird stuff. Wow, Dogfish Head only 300 million.
Yeah, come on.
I think that's a little undervalued. Yeah. Especially considering, didn't Lagunitas get like $1 billion?
I don't know. You. I think you said you knew more about that. I just always think of Ballast Point because that was the nice round $1 billion.
That is a nice round number, isn't it?
A nice round number I would love to see in my bank account.
I want to say Lagunitas was...
The $25 in my bank account is a very nice round number, too.
So the only thing I remember about Lagunitas selling is they sold... It's pretty interesting. I know they sold 50% to Heineken.
Okay.
Which made them partners, basically.
Gotcha.
And they had the option, Heineken had the option to buy the other 50%. And I know they took them up on that. So I don't know if the full purchase price was $1 billion or maybe it was 500 million.
Well, and then the Dogfish Head acquisition by Boston Beer Company. I think like the head brewer, Sam Gaglione, I think his name is, from Dogfish Head. I think he still has some control.
Okay, that makes sense then.
So maybe it was sort of not a full 100% purchase, or I think they became sort of co-owners or something.
Okay, and that makes a lot of sense because I think that's what that's kind of the interesting thing about Lagunitas to me. Okay, so it says the details of the deal were never disclosed, but they were valued at $1 billion, so according to a knowledgeable source. So put it in that ballpark. But what's interesting to me about that is they sold 50% of the company, which makes a lot of sense. You still want to have some control.
Mm-hmm.
But then they sold the other half. So they must have been like, you know what? Just being super rich is better. I'll give up the 50% control.
Maybe kind of like do it in a stepwise fashion and like 50%, see if you still like it.
Let me try out this private jet for a while, and then I'll decide if I still want to run this beer company. No, turns out I don't. Take it away, Heineken.
Turns out I'm good.
Turns out I'm going to follow my dreams.
Yeah. That would totally be me. I'm out. Good.
Oh, yeah.
That amount of money, bye.
My number is much lower than that, Steve.
Yeah. $25.
That's great. All right, so what else?
I will add, so it was named after Sam Adams, who is a founding father of the United States. Appropriate name because he was like a Boston mainstay. So he eventually, like after the American Revolution, became a Massachusetts state senator and then a governor of Massachusetts. So anyway, that was kind of the history of the name. I'll give you a few fun like timeline facts for Sam Adams. The first Sam Adams delivery to the White House was in 1986. In 1996, Sam Adams Boston Lager became the official American Airlines in-flight beer.
Oh,
for
nice.
first and business class passengers. In 1998, they signed a distribution agreement to take the beer to Japan. In 2002, they launched Sam Adams Light, which is a new low-calorie, low-alcohol beverage, which is so high demand now. You know,
Yeah.
for the calorie-minded people, fitness-minded people.
Those are some good beer facts, Stephen.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Yeah, so I think did we reach the bottom of the dive?
We reached it. Yeah, we're walking on the bottom now.
Cool. Yeah, that was interesting. Almost all of that was news to me. So
I mean, every time we do one of these deep dives, I learn some cool stuff, and I am somewhat disappointed. You're disappointed in the amount of time they've been around.
Yeah, the age.
I'm disappointed that they never burned down
and
had to like reconstruct.
They didn't face.
Come back. They did not face the adversity.
Yeah, I feel like this is what you need to be a storied beer brand. This is what has to happen because it's happened to all the storied beer brands. You need to burn down at least once. Twice is better. Your entire existence needs to fall on the shoulders of one person who, for reasons beyond all comprehension, decides they're going to dedicate their life to revitalizing the beer you make and then be successful. And you have to face one or more is better, existential threat like a world war or some other disaster where no one wants to drink your beer anymore. If you have all three of those things, you get the official moniker of a storied beer brand. And I don't think Sam Adams has any of those. So maybe in 100 years.
They did have the adversity of when they first came out in 1984, they cost $20 a case, and Heineken cost $17, and they had to convince people that $3 extra was worth it to drink their beer. It was a higher quality. So they did have to overcome the $3 difference over Heineken.
That is actually pretty tough. I liked Heineken for a long time.
And it took specifically the New York market to really, it took them a while to jump on the craft beer train, which is what Brooklyn Brewery found too when they were trying to get their lager started. They had to make a few, they had to have a few like important contacts, important people that they got on board, you know, like important politicians, important businessmen. They were able to convince, and that's how they started, because it was a slow uptake over there.
Well, and Jim even said when he started, there's a quote from him on the Wikipedia entry that basically when I started Sam Adams, American beer was a joke. And it made him mad because I mean, that makes sense. They're competing against, there probably wasn't much respect for American, like craft beer back then at all.
Yeah.
And even I remember, like even when I first started getting into craft beer and there wasn't as much around, my concept of what good beer was like European beer.
Yeah.
Like, German beer is the best beer in the world, hands down, or like Belgian beer is the best beer in the world, hands down. And you never thought, American beer is the best beer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that rings true.
I mean, I think I read something at the beginning, like Jim Cook he ended up having like drive the distribution truck himself because he just couldn't, like no one was even willing to just to carry his product. So he just started driving it around. So, you know, he did have a dedication to bringing that beer. So obviously we have to credit him a little bit for that, for his passion.
he gets a pillar. He gets the passion pillar.
Yeah, the passion pillar. Okay.
There you go. All right.
There you go.
He's 1/3 of the way.
Hey, he still does a lot of those commercials too. He does seem very happy about his beer. So.
Yeah, very successful. Just there needs to be One fire where absolutely no one is injured. We don't want any. It's fully covered by insurance, and you have to move to a new location. And then we need, you know what? He can have 2 pillars. We're granting him 2 pillars because we had the pandemic.
Yeah.
That's an existential threat.
There you go.
Okay, so just a small fire.
Counts.
Again, we don't want anyone injured. no damage. But, you know, just all the 100-plus-year-old breweries.
Just the fire alarm just needs to go off at least.
I'm sure that's happened at least once. All right, we need to be censored.
All right,
be taken
wrap
off
it up.
We gotta wrap it.
Instagrams.
We're gonna be canceled. All right, so if you want to email us and tell us that we shouldn't want fires to happen, it's contact.attenuation@gmail.com, and we're also on Instagram at attenuation.podcast. So I think that is a wrap for episode 35 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
That's me.
And we are saying farewell, good night, and we'll see you in a week.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers to you too, sir.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Attenuation, a beer podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram or Facebook for more fun content. Catch you next week. Cheers!